Prime Minister Xie secretly married a country girl. When I caught them, he was holding the bride and kissing her amidst the cheers of the guests, showing no embarrassment. The young lady just wanted to be a bride again. Don't worry, we won't consummate the marriage. I smiled faintly and turned to leave. He thought I was sulking. Until he found me lying in bed with the emperor. Prime Minister Xie barged into my private residence despite the wind and snow. At that moment, my clothes were disheveled, and my face still flushed with lingering heat. Don't worry, I only consummated the marriage, I didn't actually get married. Yang Luxing rose from the bed and pulled me into his embrace, his exposed chest covered in kiss marks. I've been with you for so long, and I still don't have a proper status. The grand wedding at the Prime Minister's residence 3 years ago remains vivid in my memory, yet today, the Prime Minister is marrying again. The manor in the suburbs was draped with red silk, the hall was filled with guests, and everyone clamored for the newlyweds to hurry into the bridal chamber. The bride, dressed in a bright red wedding gown, blushed with shyness. Xie Zhiming wrapped an arm around her waist, lifted her into his arms, and planted a tender kiss on her forehead. I stood at the doorway, staring blankly at the scene before me. Xie Zhiming's older brother turned his head and saw me, shouting in a panic, "Sister-in-law." The next moment, the cheerful laughter and chatter instantly fell silent. I slowly walked toward the two of them. The girl nervously punched his shoulder and struggled to get out of Xie Zhiming's embrace. Xie Zhiming showed no trace of embarrassment at being caught by his wife. He carefully shielded the bride behind him and smiled gently. Linger insisted on playing the bride. Don't worry, since I promised to marry only you in this lifetime, I will not take a concubine. I have known Xie Zhiming since childhood. We grew up together as close friends. When we were just young children, our parents exchanged tokens and arranged a marriage for us. He is a renowned and romantic scholar in the capital, spending his days frequenting brothels and pleasure quarters, with countless female confidants, making me, the Prime Minister's wife, a laughingstock. I neither cry nor make a fuss. He took out a shiny, oiled key from his purse. This is the key to managing the household affairs of the Prime Minister's residence. I'm returning it to you now. Xie Zhiming took it and clenched it in his hand, his expression clearly displeased. To force me to come home this time, you're even giving up your authority over the household. I didn't miss the deep-seated suspicion in his eyes, then pulled out a divorce agreement. Thank you, Prime Minister. I, Liu Yunli, am divorcing my husband today. From now on, men may marry and women may wed, with no further ties between us. Xie Zhiming's face immediately darkened. Liu Yunli, have you lost your mind? His half-brother, standing beside him, sensed the tense atmosphere and quickly grabbed hold of Xie Zhiming. Sister-in-law, please calm down. Who in the entire capital doesn't know that second brother will only marry you? This wedding doesn't count. I smiled faintly, then turned and walked away calmly. Second brother, hurry and go after sister-in-law. Xie Zhiming was indifferent. What's there to chase after? She's caused plenty of trouble before, and within a few days, she always comes back obediently. A married woman follows her husband, she won't leave. You've never made such a big fuss before. Don't blame me for not reminding you. After Liu Yunli's parents died in battle, you promised right in front of the emperor that you would marry no one but her in this lifetime. Xie Zhiming glanced toward the door, his deep eyes narrowing slightly. Linger suddenly tugged at his sleeve. May I see the housekeeper's key? After leaving the estate, I was invited to the restaurant of my close friend Xiahe, where I had a couple of drinks with her. Seeing the 2 empty wine jugs beside me, she understood the situation. Has Xie Zhiming gone to Chuanxiang Pavilion again? Or has he taken in some new entertainers or courtesans? Hearing that name, my heart felt as if it were being cut by a knife. He is getting married today. After hearing the whole story, Xiahe slammed the table and stood up, calling for the guards to go beat up that scoundrel. To marry a village girl with the ceremony of a principal wife, how dare he humiliate you like this? If you ask me, You should have divorced him long ago. With your parents' achievements and family wealth, aren't all the fine young men of Chang'an at your disposal? Tomorrow, I'll host a polo match to help you take a look. Xiahe was telling the truth. My father is the great general who protects the nation. My mother is the wealthiest person in the 9 provinces. The current emperor shares a life and death bond with me, and I command a private army. With my family background, not to mention being the wife of a mere prime minister, even establishing my own household and keeping a few male companions wouldn't be out of the question. You're right. Why should he be allowed to visit those pleasure quarters while I'm not, drunk and impulsive? I grabbed Xiahe and headed out. Let's go to the Nanfeng house right now. As soon as we entered the private room, Xiahe ordered a few male singers to perform tunes. I had to leave temporarily due to abdominal pain. Upon returning from the restroom, I bumped into a handsome young messenger. He wore a silver crown and was dressed in a casual robe with cloud patterns. In his hand, he held a jade token from the Southern Breeze Pavilion, and his face was veiled, giving him an air of mystery. Unlike an ordinary person, especially those captivating eyes made me instantly recognize his identity. I heard the Prime Minister is taking another wife today, but it seems the Prime Minister's wife is no less impressive. Visiting the Southern Breeze Pavilion at night, your words are truly unpleasant. I brushed his hand away and was about to leave, but in the next moment, he pulled me back. When he looked into my eyes, it felt as if his gaze was filled with a sea of stars, and I quite liked it. So I said to him, I'll give you 100 taels of silver to spend the night with me. I thought I had made myself perfectly clear, but the young man across from me became overly sensitive and refused in a low, hoarse voice. Don't mess around. Before I married, I was a general who commanded absolute obedience. My words were never to be taken lightly. I hooked my arm around his neck and took the initiative to kiss him. He instinctively pressed me against the pillar, his large hand cupping the back of my head as he deepened the kiss. During the ups and downs, I pulled off his veil. When that handsome face came into view, I smiled triumphantly. Who would have thought that the most revered person in the entire Great Chu had a habit of disguising himself as a servant? That night, I slept at the Southern Breeze Pavilion. The next day, news of the Prime Minister's wife spending the night at the Southern Breeze Pavilion spread like wildfire. When Xie Jiming came knocking urgently, I was still lying in the arms of another man. I paid no attention, focusing instead on teasing Yang Luxing's Adam's apple, watching as he finally couldn't resist swallowing hard, then opened his eyes. I smiled radiantly, but he wore a troubled expression and asked helplessly, "Do you want to use this kind of tactic to get me to help you deal with Xie Jiming?" I retorted, "Then are you willing?" He sighed, "If you wish, you don't need to sacrifice yourself to me. I will do it for you." The door was slammed open, and my maid came in to block the person. Yang Luxing tried to get up, but I pressed him down firmly beneath me. Xie Jiming watched from behind the gauze curtain, pacing back and forth in anger, and scolded me furiously. "Liu Yunli, you have no sense of womanly virtue. How dare you fool around outside? What kind of behavior is this?" I questioned him. "On what grounds is the Prime Minister accusing me?" "Naturally, as your husband, I have already divorced the Prime Minister. So what kind of husband are you to me? From now on, where I am, what I do, and who I am with have nothing to do with you. Understand?" I then ordered the maid, Song Chun, "Drive these people out for me. Don't disturb my good dream." Yes. Xie Jiming and his brothers were driven out. At the entrance of the Southern Breeze Pavilion, Xie Jiming's face was grim. Could the neighborhood rumors actually be true? "Prime Minister, it seems your wife is determined to divorce you." "I'm not so sure. Everyone in Chang'an knows that the lady of the Liu family is devoted to the Prime Minister. How could she possibly go looking for male courtesans?" "Yeah, it's obvious. First, she used the threat of divorce to make the Prime Minister focus on her. Then she found an actor to make him jealous and feel insecure. My concubines have used this trick countless times." The crowd burst into laughter. and Xie Zhiming's expression finally softened a bit. After everyone had left, Yang Luxing propped his head on his hand and asked me, if I had stepped in just now, everything would have been resolved easily. Why didn't you let me intervene? I picked up my clothes and put them on, then replied to him, if you really come out, everyone in Chang'an will know that the emperor and the former wife of the prime minister spent a night of passion in a male brothel. Do you not care about your reputation? Thinking of Xie Zhiming, I sighed in disappointment. Yang Luxing noticed it. Is Xie Zhiming really that good? Everyone knows he's a womanizer. You've suffered for 3 years, and you still can't let him go. There was a rustling sound from the bed as Yang Luxing got up and came over to embrace me from behind. I believe the late General Hu Guo would want you to live well. I raised an eyebrow and turned to ask, what does your Majesty wish to say? Ahem. The ministers have urged several times, saying the central palace lacks a master and needs an empress to oversee everything. I'm not foolish. I naturally understand the meaning behind his words. Seeing my prolonged silence, he anxiously grabbed my hand to explain. I know you want a lifelong partner, and I swear, I've never touched any of the concubines in the palace. When the time is right, I will let them go. Look at him getting all worked up. It's no secret that the harem is neglected. There are even rumors among the commoners that the emperor is impotent. I smiled at him, freed my hand from his grip, and took out 10 taels of gold from my purse, placing it on the bed. Then I calmly said, payment for services, unable to resist taking a few more glances at his tearful expression. I walked out of the Nanfeng pavilion with immense satisfaction and returned to my own residence. My mother left me a substantial fortune, which included 4 elegant estates within Chang'an City. I rented out the others and kept only my favorite, the Yunyu estate. Today, while I was in the courtyard taking inventory of the dowry I brought back from the Prime Minister's residence, I unexpectedly came across the imperial decree in which Yang Luxing had conferred upon me the title of Junzhu. I couldn't help but recall the day Xie Zhiming and I got married. Because of my good looks, Xie Zhiming had once been fond of me for a period of time, but that was before I followed my parents to join the army. Later, he grew to despise my military demeanor and was left with nothing but disgust for me. It just so happens that there is an unrefusable marriage contract between him and me. The Prince of Huainan and my father were taught by the same master, sharing a bond since childhood. They married and had children around the same time, which is why they arranged the marriage between Xie Zhiming and me at an early age. Later, the Prince of Huainan saved my parents' lives on the battlefield. However, he himself ended up wrapped in a grass mat for burial. That is why, before my parents passed away, they never forgot to remind me and Xie Zhiming to live well together. So I married Xie Zhiming. As for Yang Luxing, when he was still a child emperor, my father was his tutor, the mentor who supported him in governing. Therefore, I often interacted with him, and he was the one who understood me best. We once spent a life-and-death ordeal together in a hunting cave, which forged a deep bond between us. On the day of the wedding, Yang Luxing came to drink at the celebration and got completely drunk at the banquet. I never thought he would be so happy about my marriage. He stood up for me, not only granting me the title of princess and bringing countless treasures, but also forcing Xie Zhiming to marry only me in front of everyone. Although Xie Zhiming agreed, on our wedding night, he didn't even touch me and instead went to a brothel. He said his household could have only me, but I couldn't control the women he kept outside. I originally thought that although Xie Zhiming was flawed, as long as his character wasn't entirely bad, we could still manage to get by. But over these past 3 years, I have been utterly disappointed in him. My father said that with my temperament, I'm not suited for the struggles of the imperial harem, and it would be better to marry someone I know well. Now that I think about it, everything my father said was nonsense. Someone I know well is even less suitable for me. In the evening, Xiahe invited me for tea, and as soon as I entered, she told me with great indignation, "Did you know Xie Zhiming actually brought that so-called Linga into the Prime Minister's residence and even gave her the housekeeper's key. I calmly took my seat. He has nothing to do with me anymore. Seeing me like this made Xiahe even more upset, her eyes turning red. Lily, you did very well last night. You must get to know more men. You absolutely cannot cling solely to Xie Zhiming like a tree. I was speechless. It seemed Xiahe was quite supportive of me seeking male companions, but it's no wonder she said that, because during the 3 years I was married to Xie Zhiming, I truly wasn't the same person I used to be, dressed in intricate gowns, with hair styled in the latest fashion, attending those tedious flower arranging and tea ceremonies. Where is the lively spirit I once had? What's even more ridiculous is that I have already transformed into the proper lady Xie Zhiming expects. Yet he still shows me no kindness. I've had enough of these 3 years. Returning from my walk, in the dim light of dusk, I faintly saw 2 figures standing at the entrance of the courtyard. From a distance, they looked like a young master with his servant, but as I drew closer, I realized it was Yang Luxing once again. Is he very free recently? Perhaps noticing my gaze, he looked up and smiled, shaking the box of Jinji plum cake in his hand. Otherwise, how could Yang Luxing understand me best? He clearly knows exactly how to get to me. As the saying goes, if you take something, your hand feels soft. If you eat something, your mouth feels short. So, I had no choice but to invite him into the courtyard for a simple meal. But strangely, as we ate, the meal somehow ended up on the bed. In the end, I looked at Yang Luxing with a face full of hostility. With clear eyes, that person shamelessly said, "I came to your door on my own, no need to pay for the service." I secretly made up my mind that I would never let Yang Luhong stay for dinner again. But the next day, he actually came again, bringing Li Ji's milk crisps with him. Damn it, who could refuse a young man who offers his services willingly and even brings gifts? I let him in again. I swear it's absolutely not because of the goat milk pastry. Before long, the news that I had gotten involved with a young male entertainer from the Southern Breeze Pavilion had spread throughout the entire city of Chang'an. I didn't really mind, but Xie Zhiming seemed to believe it. Not knowing where I lived, he started coming to the trading company frequently to intercept me. Today, as soon as I entered the trading company, I saw a group of managers gathered around several boxes tied with red silk ribbons, looking very worried. A few sets of jewelry and a bright red wedding dress were still placed on the box. Xie Zhiming approached from the side, immediately speaking in a haughty tone, "Womenfolk, parading around outside all day and behaving improperly. Nowadays, with nations coming to pay tribute and social customs being more open. But in the past, you would have been drowned in a pig cage." I stood up to leave, truly not wanting to speak with him, but he blocked my way. "Have you forgotten the teachings of female virtue and morality? Want to learn them again?" I looked up at him. "Prime Minister, if you wish to seek treatment, the medical clinic is just to the right outside the door. I won't keep you." Xie Zhiming was unbothered and instead laughed. "Your wedding was originally handled entirely by the Ministry of Rites on the Emperor's orders, while I personally arranged Linga's wedding. Isn't it because of this that you're jealous? I'll personally organize one for you too. So can you finally calm down and come home? I just feel exhausted." "Prime Minister, you really should go see a doctor and get your pulse checked." Liu Yunli. "You're angry because I arranged Linga's wedding, and now I've agreed to hold another one for you. The betrothal gifts and wedding dress have all been delivered. What more do you want? Are you determined to make me lose face? Let me tell you, I'm only doing this once. If you refuse, don't ever return to the Prime Minister's residence again." Xie Zhiming is always like this, never reflecting on his own mistakes. If he gives you a way out and you don't take it, then it's your fault. Xie Zhiming. I'll say it again, we are already divorced. I have submitted the divorce papers to the authorities, and soon my household registration will be transferred out of your Prime Minister's residence. I don't care who you marry or who you share your wedding night with. Xie Jiming said good 3 times in a row, glaring at me fiercely. Liu Yunli, I gave you a chance, you chose not to take it, so don't regret it, take your things and leave. He took those betrothal gifts and went back again. Looking at the much cleaner courtyard, I felt much more comfortable, but as soon as I returned home, Yang Luxing was already waiting in the tea room, leisurely practicing calligraphy. Does he really think this place is his imperial palace? What are you writing? He turned to look at me and smiled slightly. Come take a look. As I leaned in closer, the striking words marriage certificate came into view. My heart skipped a beat, and as I looked up, I saw his eyes again, deep as a sea of stars. Yang Luxing bit his lower lip, tears nearly spilling over. Ali, are you really unwilling to take responsibility for me? Under Yang Luxing's relentless pursuit, I eventually let my guard down and allowed him to come and go freely in my courtyard. After that, he came even more frequently, and the rumors spread even more wildly. Finally, one day, when we were deeply immersed in our affection, we were caught red-handed by Xie Jiming, who had suddenly arrived that night. Heavy rain poured outside the window, but inside the room, an ambiguous atmosphere was growing. Xie Jiming, who knew the address from somewhere, banged loudly on the courtyard gate while shouting at the door, demanding that I come out to see him. Perhaps it's my imagination, but I always feel that Yang Luxing's strength has grown even greater. I impatiently ordered the maid on night duty, have the steward prepare the carriage and send him back. Wait, let him in. Yang Luxing finished speaking, then looked at me with a pitiful expression. Ali, the man you're with now is me. I don't like him always clinging to you. As you wish. Yang Luxing is someone who knows how to use his advantages to the fullest. Strangely enough, even though I clearly know what he's trying to do, I still find myself willing to indulge him. After Xie Jiming entered, he was stopped by the maid at the doorway. He kept shouting outside, Liu Yunli, I've already made such a scene and promised to personally prepare a wedding for you. Why haven't you come home yet? Upon hearing this, Yang Luxing's eyes sharpened, and he actually reached out to tickle my sensitive spots, making me burst into laughter. Don't mess around. He deliberately raised his voice. Ali, you look so beautiful. There was a moment of silence outside the door, followed immediately by the sound of pushing and shoving. Liu Yunli, you really are keeping a male lover. Who is that adulterer? Let him come out. Seeing the door about to be pushed open, I shouted sharply, Halt! Yang Luxing helped me put on my clothes and then supported me as I walked to the door. I opened the door, the flush on my face not yet faded. Xie Jiming, drenched by the rain, choked up the moment he saw me. You damned fool, you really went and fell for someone else. I was in my nightgown, and the marks on my neck were impossible to hide. I leaned weakly against the doorframe, idly playing with the strands of my hair that had fallen loose, and told him clearly, Xie Jiming, I have always meant what I said. Since I've decided to divorce you, it's a real divorce. Oh, don't worry, he and I have only shared a bed, not yet married. Hearing this, Yang Luxing, who had just stepped out of the room, pulled me into his arms, his sleeping robe loosely draped, and even deliberately exposed the bite marks on his chest. He said with a face full of resentment, I have been with you for so long, and yet I still don't have a proper status. The moment Xie Jiming saw Yang Luxing, he froze in place, his eyes filled with disbelief. Your Majesty, why are you? He clenched his fists, glaring at Yang Luxing. Filled with anger but unable to speak out, instead, he turned his target toward me. Liu Yunli, you are truly audacious. How dare you disrespect the Emperor? Yang Luxing narrowed his eyes and stepped in front of me. Your Excellency, it would be best to treat your eye condition as soon as possible, lest you go blind and fail to see that it is I who admires Liu Yunli. Hiding behind him, I felt for the first time that the little emperor, whom I had once beaten to a pulp, had become someone I could rely on. Xie Jiming's eyes turned red. Your Majesty, are you willing to defy the world's condemnation and follow in the footsteps of King Ju of Shang by seizing a subject's wife? Even if Liu Yunli has already divorced you, if she were willing, what would it matter if I became the King Ju of Shang? Yang Luxing grabbed Xie Zhiming by the collar and threw him fiercely into the courtyard. Xie Zhiming, you are utterly unworthy of Liu Yunli. Guards, escort the Prime Minister back to his residence. Yes, Xie Zhiming was restrained by being lifted and dragged. Yang Luxing suddenly restrained me, and in front of him, he kissed my neck, causing Xie Zhiming to roar furiously. Afterward, Yang Luxing demanded a status from me, and he quietly slipped a chicken blood jade bracelet onto my wrist, once again asking me to be his empress. This chicken blood jade bracelet was left by Yang Luxing's mother for his future wife, but I still didn't agree. The next day, Yang Luxing returned to the palace and never came back after that. During that time, he did send 2 letters, saying that he was busy with state affairs and had urgent matters to handle. For several peaceful days in a row, I finally had the chance to invite Xiahe to go out and take a look around the streets. I never expected to run into an acquaintance as soon as I stepped onto the street. Linga approached, adjusting her hairpin. The embroidered silk she wore and the oversized gold hairpins in her hair made her look garishly vulgar. She boasted to me, I heard that the young lady of the Liu family is of noble status, yet she's still lost to me, now that I hold the authority over the household affairs in the Prime Minister's residence. You, sister, can only be a discarded wife. I ignored her pretentious act and turned to ask Xiahe if she wanted to visit the weapon shop or the Nanfeng pavilion first. Linga, seeing me act as if she didn't exist, stomped her feet furiously. I'm talking to you, can't you hear me? Talking to me, then you should at least respectfully address me as princess. I continued to remind her. Also, Xie Zhiming was divorced by me. It's fine if you picked up the trash I discarded, but don't jump around in front of me and dirty my eyes for no reason. He and I passed by her. But then Xie Zhiming's voice came from behind. Lily, do you really not want me anymore? I turned to look at him. He looked haggard, and even though he never grew a beard, dark stubble had appeared on his face. I impatiently told him, I think I made it very clear a long time ago. Prime Minister, once again, I tried to pull Xiahe away, and once again, Xie Zhiming stopped me, suppressing his anger. He asked, have you been with that person for a long time? Upon hearing this, I sneered disdainfully and retorted, whether it is or isn't, what does it have to do with you? Xie Zhiming seemed to have lost his temper. He dragged Linga in front of me and asked if it was because of Linga that I had divorced him. It is indeed easier to change the landscape than to alter one's nature. He still shifts the blame onto others to this day. Lily, I sent her away. Will you come back? I swear, I will learn to be a good husband. Upon hearing his words, Linga instantly turned pale and clung to Xie Zhiming. Unwilling to let go for a long time, she pleaded, Xielang, you cannot send me away. I am already carrying your child. Xie Zhiming was stunned. I sighed and advised Xie Zhiming, if you abandon me again after playing with my feelings, Xie Zhiming, I will only think even less of you. Xie Zhiming hung his head low, tears actually falling as he growled, do you think is any good either? He's had designs on you for a long time. The first woman by my side was sent by him. My expression remained calm. I see, you have no other reaction. What reaction does the Prime Minister wish to see? Disappointment, pain. If you intend to drag me into the mud, I'm afraid you won't succeed. Do you know why I insisted on marrying you back then? Xie Zhiming's eyes flickered. Why, back when the Northern Di tribe rebelled, your mother, the Princess of Huainan, was a spy for the enemy state. Your father loved her deeply and, in order to protect you and your mother, he sacrificed his own life to save my parents, entrusting you to their care. It was only after learning of the King of Huainan's true intentions that your mother chose to follow him in death, and on their deathbeds, my parents insisted that I marry you all to protect you and ensure the prosperity of your Huainan royal line. I thought I had no particular attachment to love, so I believed marrying anyone was the same. Marrying you, at the very least, fulfilled our parents' wish, but I overestimated myself, because I've come to realize that I need love. And you cannot give me that. These words have been buried in my heart for a long time. Now that I've spoken them, I feel much lighter. Xie Jiming was still standing there in a daze, but Xiahe and I had already walked far away. He shouted loudly from behind, "Liu Yunli, I care about you." Hearing this, I suddenly felt that Xie Jiming still had a lot to learn about how to love someone. Today was destined to be an unsettled day. Finally, I managed to invite my best friends out for some fun. But we were stopped by people all day long. As soon as I arrived at the Zhuo pavilion of the South Wind Hall, I was stopped by the old eunuch beside Yang Luxing. "Can you just let me go?" After arguing for a long time, the old eunuch silenced me with the words, "The emperor has summoned you." Helpless, I followed the old eunuch into the palace. By the edge of Tai Pond, Yang Luxing, dressed in a deep blue brocade robe, slowly scattered fish food on the lake surface, attracting the fish to compete for it. Seeing me approach, Yang Luxing smiled and led me to the edge of Tai Pond. He asked me if I could still recognize which one was Penghu. Fat Tiger was a divine carp presented as tribute from a foreign land. But his appearance was different from that of an ordinary red carp. He was golden with black stripes. I was young at the time and blurted out, "A fish that looks like a tiger." Yang Luxing then named him Fat Tiger and raised him in the Tai Pond. I smiled and grabbed a handful of fish food, scattering it into the pond. A plump, large carp leaped out. Fat Tiger loves to compete, always wanting to be the first. "See, here he is." I looked up and once again met his gaze. He reached out and wrapped his arms around me, softly asking, "I love to compete too, and I want to be the first in your heart." He had hinted at this countless times, so of course I knew what he wanted, but I still pushed his hand away. "Ah Xing, give me a little more time." Yang Luxing felt a moment of disappointment. "I am the emperor. If I want you, no one can stop me." He was silent for a few seconds, then added, "Except you, only you can stop me, as long as you are unwilling. I cannot bear to cause you even the slightest displeasure." The night gradually deepened, and suddenly a circle of lanterns lit up on the Tai Pond. While many Kongming lanterns rose into the sky, an old eunuch approached with a Kongming lantern and handed it to me and Yang Luxing. "Today is the Mid-Autumn Festival. Why not release a lantern and make a wish, princess? Perhaps the general and his wife in the heavens will see it." Hearing these words, tears suddenly fell from my eyes, and I shot a reproachful glance at Yang Luxing. Truly, the emperor knew exactly where my weakness lay. My parents passed away during the Mid-Autumn Festival. Although they loved me, they still made me marry Xie Jiming, knowing full well that I was in love with Yang Luxing. I know the Xie family has done a great favor for the Liu family, but must I repay this debt with my lifelong happiness? But I still decided to follow my parents' wishes. When Yang Luxing learned I was to marry Xie Jiming, he said nothing, only that I was like a sister to him, and that he would naturally make sure my wedding was properly arranged. Hearing him say that, I felt somewhat relieved, glad that he had no romantic feelings for me, so there was no need for him to be sad for me. He conferred upon me the title of princess and ordered the Ministry of Rites to prepare for my wedding. On the day of my wedding, he was all smiles, happily drank himself into a stupor, and even said that finally someone could keep this troublemaker in check. Listening to this, I didn't feel good inside. It wasn't until more than half a year after our marriage, when I went to the palace to pick up Xie Jiming, that I heard from an old eunuch that Yang Luxing had been in a daze for a month because I got married, and even cried every night holding my portrait. He actually liked me, but I found out too late. "Ali, make a wish." Yang Luxing's voice sounded beside my ear. He was always like this every Mid-Autumn Festival. He would take me to release lanterns and make wishes, then order someone to shoot the lanterns down, doing everything possible to fulfill my wishes. I smiled, took the lantern and pen, and moved a little farther away from him. After I wrote my wish and released the Kongming lantern, I chatted with him for a while before leaving the palace with the rewards he had given me. Who would have thought that before I even reached the palace gate? Yang Luxing, disregarding all decorum, ran toward me and held me tightly in his arms, as if he wanted to press me into his very bones. The Son of Heaven, shedding tears so openly. I'm happy. The old eunuch wiped the sweat from his forehead and ran over with a smile, holding the Kongming lantern. After all these years of waiting, the emperor has finally seen the clouds part and the moon appear. I looked at the Kongming lantern and smiled faintly. Written clearly on it were the words, "I only wish that your heart is like mine, and that you do not betray this longing." When the imperial edict appointing the empress reached my hands, the young eunuch delivering the decree told me, the emperor ordered that this edict first make a stop at the prime minister's residence. Yang Luxing appears harmless on the surface, but in reality, he is the most cunning and sly. Back when my father had us engage in a sand table exercise, I was too focused on his fainting troops at the front. Just when I thought I had one, he sent a small cavalry unit to launch a surprise attack, leaving me utterly defeated and fleeing in disarray. Now that he has finally managed to trick me into his hands, how could he not take the opportunity to twist the knife in Xie Zhiming's heart? Strangely enough, Xie Zhiming went against his usual behavior and gifted me an incredibly valuable set of jewelry as a dowry. When the housekeeper of the prime minister's residence delivered the jewelry, he also included a letter. In the letter, Xie Zhiming expressed his deep regret for not cherishing me properly, but he acknowledged that it was too late for everything. He mentioned that from then on, he would live a good life with Linga. When I read the letter, I thought to myself that Xie Zhiming's sudden realization and repentance could be considered a double blessing. Little did I know that this man was so audacious that he actually kidnapped me when I went to the cemetery to pay respects to my parents. The moment the blindfold was torn off, I saw a room that looked like a basement. Xie Zhiming stared at me stubbornly, like a child denied candy. "You shouldn't have left me. You stayed for 3 years without leaving, and I had already decided to accept you. Why did you suddenly abandon me? Do you know what you're doing, Xie Zhiming?" I know. Hearing this, I broke free from the ropes and slapped him. "You know nothing." Xie Zhiming stared at my actions, frozen in place. I had already sensed something when he sent someone to knock me out in the cemetery, so I hid a sharp stone on me. In fact, I had woken up long ago and used the stone to cut the rope. Xie Zhiming couldn't trap me at all. "Someone, stop her!" After Xie Zhiming shouted, I knocked him out with a slap. The guards in his mansion were no match for me at all. Besides, Xie Zhiming only intended to detain me and had no intention of killing me, so the guards were even less capable of defeating me. Half a quarter of an hour later, as the last person fell to the ground grimacing in pain, I grabbed Xie Zhiming by the collar and dragged him out. After carefully examining the surroundings outside, I realized this was the small courtyard that Xie Zhiming's mother loved the most. He actually hid me here. Suddenly, the sound of hoofbeats came from the distance. I didn't know who was coming, so I had to hide Xie Zhiming in the haystack first, then hide by the door to observe the situation. I tightly gripped the wooden stick in my hand. If the newcomer was an enemy, they would likely be armed with swords, and I wasn't sure if this flimsy stick would be enough to fight back. With a loud bang, the wooden door burst open, and the person who strode in, dressed in a moon-white brocade robe, was none other than Yang Luxing, his face full of anxiety. "Search for me, Ah Xing." I threw down the wooden stick and threw myself directly into his arms. Other matters could be tolerated, but Yang Luxing was unwilling to tolerate Xie Zhiming's intention to harm me. As an emperor, he had already made too many concessions in the matter of loving me. If I hurt his heart again for the sake of others, it would be too selfish. Therefore, Xie Zhiming's act of kidnapping the future empress was announced to the world, and his position as prime minister was demoted. After Xie Zhiming woke up, he even had a fight with Yang Luxing in the martial arts arena. It would not sound good if it got out that the emperor had competed with a minister. So Yang Luxing strictly forbade anyone from speaking about the matter. Afterward, Xie Zhiming also came to apologize to me, saying that he now realized his mistake and that he would sincerely bless Yang Luxing and me in the future. He is a man of his word. After the coronation ceremony, my maid, Song Chun, brought me something, saying it was from Xie Zhiming. I opened the red lacquer brocade box, and inside was a torn-up marriage certificate. Song Chun closed the box and continued, Lord Xie said he has never touched you, and now that the marriage certificate is destroyed, there is no longer any connection between you. You can explain this to the emperor to avoid any lingering resentment. I didn't pay it any mind and looked towards Yang Luxing, who was just pushing the door open. There's no need to say it, he never minds. As the red curtains fell, that night, both Yang Luxing and I had the person we most wanted to love in this lifetime. Yang Luxing and I had just gotten married when voices in the court began urging him to fill the harem and share his favor equally. He was furious, had a big argument with those court officials, and stubbornly insisted on dismissing the harem. When I brought him ginseng soup to see him, he dismissed the attendants around him, held me tightly in his arms, and said in a pitiful tone, "They're forcing me to sleep with other women. Ali, I'm so pitiful." It was his usual way of acting spoiled. I reached out and patted his back to comfort him. "They're forcing you. They're bad, Your Majesty. Don't cry anymore, or I'll have to hit someone." Yang Luxing immediately stopped crying. He pouted and looked at me. "Why isn't Ali comforting me at all? It's not an easy task to get the court officials to agree to disband the harem. The court and the harem are closely connected, and you really don't need to go to such lengths for me." I thought that since husband and wife are one, I should also understand his difficulties and not demand that he change for me just because of my own ideas. Yang Luxing grew anxious, holding my shoulders even more sorrowfully. "Ali, are you abandoning me?" "I'm not abandoning you. In fact, I deeply understand his feelings for me. From our first meeting, the moment our eyes met, I knew that he and I would inevitably have many entanglements in the future. But if he truly loved me, the women in the harem wouldn't be an obstacle. He would still let many palace maids and consorts leave the palace. I know this all too well." So the entire afternoon, I was discussing with him how to proceed gradually and how to ensure the consorts receive the compensation they deserve. As I said, a married couple is one entity. We should be in the same boat. Yang Luxing does have some skills. He actually thought of using sorcery and even put on a show with me. At the cost of my miscarriage and using the royal lineage as leverage, he deceived the ministers into agreeing to disband the harem. But I always felt that the ministers simply didn't want to see Yang Luxing do anything even more outrageous. In conclusion, Yang Luxing fulfilled his promise to be my one and only for life. To this end, he even went so far as to step on Xie Zhiming, who had long since resigned and retired, proudly like a big cat. "You see, I have 3,000 beauties in my harem, yet I can remain chaste for you." Clearly, Xie Zhiming lacks self-control. "Oh, so Your Majesty sent a beauty to Xie Zhiming just to test him for me." He instantly tensed up. You already know, he was flustered and angry, but in an instant, he became nervous. "You already know," he hurriedly explained. "Ali, I acted on my own and made you sad. Hit me." Watching Yang Luxing go from arrogant to frustrated, I found it quite amusing. Yang Luxing has never beaten me in a verbal argument. Still, I tried to soothe his ruffled feathers. "Why would I hit you? This is Xie Zhiming's problem. At most, you're just aiding and abetting." I paused for a moment, gently stroking my lower abdomen, and continued, "Besides, if I hurt you, wouldn't our child be left without a father?" Facing his expression of disbelief, I watched as the starlight in his eyes seemed about to overflow, and I leaned in to kiss him. Yang Luxing held me tightly, deepening the kiss. "After the flowers have fallen, it's fortunate that the ones in love finally stay together." After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, There is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In my previous life, my half-sister married the fourth prince and not only became pregnant repeatedly but also gave birth to sons each time. Meanwhile, I, as the crown princess, struggled for 3 years after marriage and only managed to have a sickly daughter. The crown prince publicly insulted me, calling me a hen that couldn't lay eggs, saying I had shamed him. He even resented our daughter for being unable to inherit the throne and, in a fit of madness, killed her right before my eyes. I died from overwhelming grief and rage. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day the princes were selecting their consorts. I watched coldly as the crown prince unhesitatingly pulled my half-sister, Ning Shueyao, to his side, and instantly realized that he had also been reborn. He thought that by choosing someone else, he could father a son, but he was unaware that the women of our Ning family are naturally fertile, and conceiving and bearing children is as easy as turning over a hand. It was his own depleted vitality that made it difficult for him to impregnate a woman. I looked up at the vibrant dragon aura surrounding the emperor and respectfully stepped forward, curtsying, "Your Majesty, I have long admired you. I beg you to grant my wish. The princes have reached the age for marriage. All the noble young ladies from prominent families are present here. You may choose according to your hearts." The emperor sat on the high platform, his voice steady, exuding the charm of a mature man. The scene before me made me realize that I had been reborn, back to the day when the princes were selecting their consorts. The current emperor, Xiao Heng, had just celebrated his 35th birthday and was in the prime of his life. As soon as he finished speaking, Crown Prince Xiao Chen quickly stepped in front of my half-sister Ning Shueyao, grabbed her sleeve, and pulled her into his arms. "Father, I am fond of the eldest daughter of the Prime Minister, Miss Shueyao." A single stone stirred up 1,000 waves, and even the emperor looked puzzled. The Crown Prince, with so many noble daughters of high status to choose from, actually wanted to marry a common-born daughter as his principal consort. It was simply unheard of. Yet, in that instant, I understood Xiao Chen had also been reborn. He firmly held my common-born sister's hand, and she, overwhelmed by the unexpected favor, leaned into his embrace, their eyes intertwined, brimming with deep affection. The emperor couldn't help but speak. "Chen, the state preceptor once prophesied that the prime minister's daughter is destined to be a phoenix. It seems Jingru is a better match for you." Before the emperor could finish, Xiao Chen hurriedly interrupted. "Father, Shuyao is also the prime minister's daughter. Perhaps the one destined to be a phoenix is her. Matters of fate cannot be judged by worldly distinctions of legitimacy and status." As he spoke, his eyes glanced at me, unable to conceal his disgust. Indeed, in my previous life, he chose me as the crown princess without hesitation because of the prophecy of destiny, claiming that such a noble fate would never fall upon a daughter born of a concubine. Unfortunately, after our marriage, I was unable to bear him children, which caused him great embarrassment and made him the laughingstock of the capital. In contrast, after Ning Shueyao married the fourth prince, she gave birth to one child after another, all of them healthy, chubby boys, and the fourth prince's status in the court rose steadily. Having lived through it once, he naturally would not repeat the same mistake. Ning Shueyao was deeply moved to see Xiao Chen so resolutely choosing her. Since childhood, her appearance, figure, and talents in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting were no less than mine. Yet, because of her status as a concubine's daughter, she was always overshadowed by me, and she had long held a grudge about it. Xiao Chen's words had clearly struck a chord with her. She straightened her posture, turned to look at me, her eyes filled with pride and smugness. Seeing Xiao Chen's firm stance, the emperor did not press further and immediately drafted an edict, appointing Ning Shueyao as the crown princess. Following that, the other princes selected their consorts one by one, being astute individuals, and seeing that the crown prince had chosen the daughter of a minister, none dared to surpass him. without exception. The family backgrounds of the princess consorts were all inferior to Ning Shuiao's. Before long, all the women around me had found their matches, leaving me standing alone. Ning Shuiao watched me with malicious delight. Clearly enjoying my predicament, at that moment, the emperor rose from his seat, descended from the high platform, and approached me. He asked softly, "Jingru, do you have someone you favor? Your uncle will support you. I am the daughter of the chancellor, and my mother is a noble county princess. It can be said that in the entire Xinjing, no woman is more distinguished than I. Now, with the princes selecting their consorts, I am the only one who was not chosen, in the end. It is simply not fitting. As for the title Little Uncle, it was merely a playful nickname I gave him when I first met him at the Chancellor's residence many years ago. In truth, he is only about 10 years older than me. By referring to himself as such in front of everyone, he was clearly standing up for me. I looked up at the man before me, pitilessly handsome, enveloped in an unceasing aura of dragon energy. A sudden inspiration struck me. Xiao Heng's empress position was vacant, which perfectly matched my destiny as the phoenix, so I curved my lips into a shy smile, bowed respectfully to him, and said in a soft, delicate voice, "Jingru adores your majesty and begs for your favor." Xiao Heng was clearly taken aback and lowered his voice. "Jingru, don't be absurd, I am your uncle." Before he could finish speaking, I lifted my head and blinked innocently at him, tears falling as I spoke with a choked voice. "Does little uncle not want Jingru either?" He panicked instantly, reaching out to carefully wipe away my tears. Don't cry, I promise you." "All right." I stopped my tears and revealed a triumphant smile. He was still like that, unable to bear seeing me cry the most. Xiao Heng publicly held my hand and summoned a eunuch to draft an edict, choosing a date to welcome me into the central palace. Xiao Chen frowned and stared at me intently, while Ning Shuiao also looked unwilling. His gaze fell on Xiao Heng and my tightly clasped hands, and he spoke gloomily, "Father, please reconsider. The position of Empress has been vacant for many years. It should not be decided hastily. Moreover, this Miss Ning is of similar age to us, and she appears delicate and frail. I fear she may not be fit for the role of Empress." I raised the corner of my mouth and teased, "Your Highness the Crown Prince, are you implying that His Majesty is already old and not a suitable match for me? Or perhaps Your Highness the Crown Prince is worried that if I were to bear the Emperor a legitimate heir in the future, your position as Crown Prince would be at risk?" Xiao Heng's face instantly darkened as he sharply rebuked, "How dare you? Do I need your permission to choose an empress?" Xiao Chen reluctantly closed his mouth, casting a glance at me full of resentment. I secretly felt pleased. He must be more uncomfortable than if he had swallowed a fly. The former crown princess of his previous life had now become his mother in this life. Who could possibly accept that? Before leaving, he looked at me with a half-smile in a secluded spot and said, "Ning Jingru, I advise you not to dream of becoming the legitimate heir to the central palace. You don't have that fate. The crown prince position can only be mine." I shrugged indifferently and returned to the prime minister's residence with Ning Shuiao. The news of Ning Shuiao becoming the crown princess had already reached her birth mother, Madame Chun. As soon as I stepped out of the carriage, I saw Madame Chun craning her neck in anticipation. Although Madame Chun was favored in the residence, she was still just a concubine, living under my mother's authority and never daring to let her guard down. Now that her own daughter had participated in the consort selection alongside the legitimate daughter and had even surpassed her to be named crown princess, she could finally hold her head high for once. She grabbed Ning Shuiao's hand and exclaimed exaggeratedly, "My dear daughter, I always knew you were blessed with good fortune." Then she turned to look at me and said, "I wonder which prince Miss Jingru is betrothed to, although it certainly can't compare to the status of the crown princess. Being a princess is still something. There's no need for you to be too upset, miss." Ning Shuiao watched as Chun Xiaonyang became carried away with arrogance in front of me. Feeling guilty, she glanced at me and hurriedly covered her mother's mouth in panic, saying, "Mother, stop talking, I found it quite amusing." Ning Shuiao's appointment as crown princess was decreed on the spot by Xiao Heng. As for the edict to establish the crown princess, it couldn't be issued so casually. It still had to go through the ancestral temple rites before being announced. Naturally, Chun Xiaonyang was unaware of this. She assumed on her own that I must have been promised to some prince, and that my status was inferior to her daughter's, which is why she dared to be so presumptuous in front of me. "I'm going to say it, now that you're the crown princess. Can't I even speak a few words, you ungrateful little thing? Your mother has been treading on thin ice all these years, and now that I finally dare to be a little presumptuous, you have to criticize me. I've raised you for nothing." Chun Xiaonyang was unconvinced, puffing her cheeks and glaring at Ning Shuiao. Ning Shuiao wore an expression of exasperation, lowering her voice as she said, "My sister is the empress personally appointed by the emperor." Chun Xiaonyang froze instantly, her face alternating between red and pale, then dropped to her knees with a thud, trembling as she begged for my forgiveness. I didn't want to pay her any more attention and, after giving Ning Shuiao a faint glance, returned to my room. Soon, the decree to establish the empress was issued, and Xiao Heng's rewards flowed like a stream into the prime minister's residence. Everyone in the capital marveled at how much importance he placed on me, the young empress. Meanwhile, ever since Ning Shuiao was designated as the crown princess, she went out daily to secretly meet with Xiao Chen. Each time she returned late, her face was flushed with shy satisfaction. With just one glance, I knew exactly what they had been up to. Xiao Chen must have been truly starved, unable to wait any longer. 10 days later, Ning Shuiao was escorted away in a palanquin from the Eastern Palace. Xiao Chen, with the experiences from his previous life, became even more obsessed with having offspring, according to the servants in the Eastern Palace. Ning Shuiao was deeply favored after the grand wedding and was kept in bed for several days in a row. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard the news. In his previous life, he blamed all the fault of not having a son on me. I'm afraid this time, he will be disappointed again. He thought that by marrying Ning Shuiao, he could have a son, but he was unaware that the women of our Ning family are naturally fertile, making pregnancy and childbirth as easy as turning over a hand for us. That's why Ning Shuiao was able to have a house full of children with the fourth prince. Yet, he himself suffered from depleted vital essence, making it difficult for him to impregnate a woman, thus wasting my highly fertile body in vain. Seeing him troubled day after day about having an heir, I took an unconventional approach and resorted to the Ning family's secret pregnancy method. I endured drinking the nauseating essence-locking decoction for a full 3 years, barely managing to give birth to a daughter for him. Who would have thought that our daughter, born frail, would be despised by him? In a drunken rage, he brutally threw her to her death. My poor little darling, you came into this world in such a hurry, only to lose your life. I will make Xiao Chen pay 100-fold for the murder of my daughter. On the 6th day of the 6th month, the emperor and empress celebrated their joyous union. I sat in the bridal chamber, adorned in a phoenix crown and ceremonial robes, my makeup meticulously applied. Before long, Xiao Heng, staggering with unsteady steps and reeking of alcohol, settled down beside me. He whispered softly in my ear, "Jingru, I've wronged you by making you marry me. You are in the prime of your youth." While I have grown old, I looked up and met his gaze firmly. "Your Majesty, Jingru likes you." I wasn't lying to him. I had already developed feelings for him back when we first met. When he handed me a big red apple with a doting expression, at that time, I didn't know he was the son of heaven. I simply thought he was one of my father's guests, and I called out to him crisply, "Little uncle," which frightened my parents half to death. Yet he seemed to enjoy it, his eyes crinkling into a smile. Later I married the crown prince, and for many years after the wedding, I couldn't conceive. Everyone said it was my fault, but he never blamed me and patiently comforted me instead. Such a wonderful Xiao Heng. I don't want to miss him again. Suddenly hearing my confession, a flicker of delight flashed in his eyes, but it quickly faded. Xiao Jingru, that's just the affection you have for your uncle, not the kind of love for a man. I hurried to correct him, planting a kiss on his lips. Whether it is or not, you'll have to find out for yourself, uncle. Without hesitation, I eagerly tore open the cumbersome wedding robes, pressing him down beneath me. Instantly, a fiery glint ignited in his eyes, as if he wanted to devour me whole. Little one, you're the one who provoked me. Don't regret it later. I watched the canopy swaying overhead, completely intoxicated in his aftermath. The palace maids serving outside the door were utterly exhausted that night, going in and out to change the water a total of 7 times. The next day, news of the emperor and empress's affection spread throughout the court and the inner palace, in the blink of an eye. I had already been in charge of the central palace for over a month. Due to my innate fertile constitution, I am highly prone to pregnancy, and sure enough, just 1 month after receiving favor, I was already carrying a little prince in my womb. If Xiao Chen were to find out about my pregnancy, would he go mad with surprise? That day, I deliberately waited on the path leading to the imperial study, as the crown prince and the future ruler of the nation. Xiao Heng was particularly concerned about his studies and summoned him to the imperial study every day after court. Sure enough, before long, Xiao Chen arrived just as I had anticipated. The moment he saw me, the disgust and disdain in his eyes were unmistakable. Yet he still had to respectfully address me as Your Majesty. He bowed to pay his respects, but I deliberately left him waiting for a long time. He seemed to sense my hostility and, without waiting for me to speak, straightened up on his own. I scolded him sharply. How dare you? Does the crown prince no longer hold me in regard? Seeing that there was no one around, Xiao Chen naturally grew bolder. So what if I don't? Don't think that just because you've become the empress, you're above it all. Once I ascend the throne, you'll have to live under my mercy. He was momentarily proud and didn't notice the flash of bright yellow clothing at the corner at all. I deliberately lowered my voice, my eyes challenging. Oh, is the crown prince so certain he can ascend the throne smoothly? He frowned and pointed at the tip of my nose. What do you mean by that? Before he could react, I fell straight backward in the direction he was pointing. From behind, it looked exactly as if he had pushed me. Before I landed, that familiar figure rushed out in a panic and caught me steadily. Still shaken, I was held in Xiao Heng's arms and cried out in pain. Your Majesty, the crown prince, he pushed your servant, uncle. Jingrou's stomach hurts so much. I weakly cried out in pain, and Xiao Chen hurriedly defended himself. Father, I did not. It was this venomous woman who slandered me. She fell on her own. The eunuch beside me pointed at my skirt in shock and exclaimed, Blood, Your Majesty is bleeding. Xiao Heng's gaze dropped, and when he saw the shocking crimson bloodstains, he completely lost his composure. He immediately slapped Xiao Chen twice across the face and urgently summoned the imperial physicians for a consultation. The imperial physician frowned deeply, his hand trembling uncontrollably as he took my pulse, a thin layer of sweat beading on his forehead. What exactly is wrong with the empress? It's just a fall. How could there be blood? Xiao Heng's face was stern, and the atmosphere in the hall was frighteningly oppressive. Seeing the imperial physician remain silent for a long time, Xiao Chen sneered and said, Father, I didn't even touch her. She must have pretended to fall in order to frame me. That blood must have been prepared in advance. The imperial physician suddenly froze, then stood up and knelt before Xiao Heng, kowtowing while loudly exclaiming, Congratulations, Your Majesty, the Empress is pregnant. Xiao Heng was overjoyed upon hearing the news. Although he already had several princes, the imperial harem had not seen such happy news for a long time. It was beyond his expectations that I became pregnant so soon after our marriage. Xiao Chen swallowed back the words he was about to say, shaking his head in disbelief and muttering, "Pregnant? How is that possible? Isn't she?" Xiao Heng naturally heard him and glared at him fiercely. "I may not be young anymore, but I am not so old that I cannot make a consort pregnant. Are you so unwilling to accept my legitimate heir?" Xiao Chen immediately reacted and quickly denied it, but Xiao Heng paid him no mind, pulling the imperial physician aside to inquire about the condition of the fetus in my womb. Only after receiving the news that both mother and child were safe did he breathe a slight sigh of relief. "Then why hasn't Her Majesty woken up yet?" the imperial physician sighed. "The Empress is delicate and frail, and this is her first pregnancy. She should have been resting well, but today she unexpectedly fell and was ultimately frightened. It's likely she's been trapped in a nightmare. You must take good care of yourself from now on, otherwise both mother and child will suffer." Xiao Heng turned his gaze back to the Crown Prince. "Crown Prince, how dare you lay hands on the Empress? If anything happens to the young prince, I will surely depose you." Xiao Chen turned pale with fright and struggled to defend himself. "Father, it was she who provoked me first, saying that I am unfit to hold the position of Crown Prince. Besides, I truly did not push her." At that moment, I, who had been pretending to sleep, suddenly woke from my dream and threw myself into Xiao Heng's arms, sobbing softly, "Uncle, the Crown Prince, he wants to harm your servant's child." The Crown Prince also said that although I am the Empress, when he ascends the throne, I will have to live under his shadow. He gently patted my back to soothe me and whispered reassuringly, "Don't be afraid, I am here for you. No one can harm you or our child." He glanced at the Crown Prince and sneered, "You, ascending the throne, now that the Empress is pregnant with the legitimate heir of the Central Palace. You'd better keep a low profile, otherwise, just as I made you the Crown Prince, I can also depose you." Xiao Chen was completely stunned. He had been appointed Crown Prince solely because he was Xiao Heng's first son. He had no remarkable achievements to his name, nor did he have a powerful maternal family. Now that the Empress was pregnant, and he was suspected of plotting against the imperial heir, his position as Crown Prince was indeed hanging by a thread. In this matter, Xiao Heng ultimately showed leniency towards the Crown Prince, only punishing him with house arrest for self-reflection and stripping him of his authority to handle state affairs. However, being punished at this critical moment when I am pregnant has already made him restless and unable to eat or sleep. All of this was just a small greeting gift from me. He was right, the blood on the skirt was indeed prepared by me in advance. My constitution is unique. Once I become pregnant, the fetus is bound to be stable. That is why I dared to take such a risky move, using the child in my womb to scheme against Xiao Chen. When he was taken away by the palace attendants, the look he gave me was filled with resentment. After Xiao Heng learned that I was pregnant, he became even more attentive and considerate toward me, with a continuous stream of various rewards flowing into my palace. After the first 3 months passed smoothly, he worried that I might feel bored during my pregnancy and personally organized various banquets for me. He frequently summoned noble ladies from the capital to the palace to keep me company and lift my spirits. Ning Xueyao, as the crown princess, was naturally among those invited. On this day's banquet, Xiao Heng happened to have some free time and insisted on sticking with me to attend. Xiao Chen was also released from house arrest and entered the palace together with Ning Xueyao. Today's performance was a newly choreographed dance by the Imperial Music Bureau. The dancers, dressed in magnificent costumes, took the stage barefoot. From time to time, some bold dancers would cast flirtatious glances and make eyes at the princes seated in the audience. Everyone was captivated by the performance, but Xiao Heng's eyes never left me for a moment. He even thoughtfully served me food and wiped my mouth. In no time, the small plate in front of me was piled up like a little mountain. I couldn't help but sigh and smile wryly. "Uncle, Are you treating Jingru like a little pig? Xiao Heng, however, didn't seem to mind at all. With a doting expression, he coaxed me into eating a lychee. This scene caught the eyes of the other princesses, sparking a wave of envy among them. Father and mother are truly so affectionate, it really makes your child envious. Yes, yes, father is usually stern and unsmiling, but he becomes tender and considerate when he's with mother. The emperor and empress being of one heart is a blessing for the nation. I was teased in public and blushed with shyness, but I didn't miss the trace of gloom in Xiao Chen's eyes, nor the unwillingness and loneliness on Ning Shuiao's face. Ever since she married Xiao Chen, she has been showered with affection, and all the noble ladies in the capital envy her. Ning Shuiao also completely shed her previous image as a timid and submissive concubine-born daughter in the prime minister's residence. Now speaking with full confidence, it is said that, spoiled by favor, she has managed to tame every single concubine in the Eastern Palace into submission. I secretly laughed at her foolishness. Xiao Chen's actions were merely a reliance on her giving birth to the imperial grandson first to consolidate his position as the crown prince. Yet Ning Shuiao believed she had married the right man, indulging in his sweet words every day. Now, as I am about to give birth, Ning Shuiao, who was blessed with good fortune in her previous life, still shows no signs of pregnancy. Xiao Chen's patience is wearing thin, and he no longer treats her with the same attentiveness as before. How could Ning Shuiao bear such a drastic change? Just now, when the dancers were performing, Xiao Chen couldn't take his eyes off them. Not even sparing a glance at the shrimp Ning Shuiao had personally peeled for him, leaving her utterly humiliated. After the banquet ended, Xiao Chen quickly walked away, paying no attention to Ning Shuiao struggling to keep up behind him. Within a couple of days, rumors spread wildly in the capital about the crown prince's entanglement with a dancer. The women who had previously envied Ning Shuiao quickly changed their stance and began to feel sorry for her. There were even more rumors that the reason for the breakdown of the relationship between the crown prince and the crown princess was because the crown princess was incompetent and unable to bear a son for the crown prince, which led him to seek pleasure elsewhere. It is also said that the crown prince, in his efforts to help the crown princess conceive, would force her to drink bitter medicinal tonics every day. This caused her immense distress, leading to a loss of appetite and a significant weight loss. Soon, the other princesses who had married around the same time all became pregnant one after another. They would often gather in my palace to share their experiences and tips on prenatal care, creating a joyful and harmonious atmosphere. On this day, Ning Shuiao also came, which took me by surprise. She had been struggling with infertility and would feel upset whenever she saw others pregnant, which was why she had avoided visiting my palace for a long time. I was even more surprised when I saw her. She had become so thin that she no longer resembled a newlywed young woman but rather a withered old lady weathered by hardships. With just one glance, I understood that she had suffered greatly under Xiao Chen. I quickly dismissed everyone else. Ning Jingru, you must be delighted to see me like this, aren't you? Do you know how happy I was when the crown prince chose me? I thought becoming the crown princess would finally allow me to surpass you and vent the years of frustration from being overshadowed by you. But who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, you would become the empress? Later, I felt fortunate that the crown prince was considerate to me. I thought heaven had blessed me with a good match, but I never expected that when he found out I couldn't bear children, he would treat me worse and worse. Do you know, those medicinal soups are so bitter. The way he looks at me is full of disgust. He would rather get involved with women from the pleasure quarters than come to my room. As she spoke, her eyes reddened, and tears fell one after another. Unstoppable, of course. I knew everything I was saying. I had truly and deeply experienced the hardships she had endured. She sniffled and hesitantly spoke. Sister, please help me. I've heard from the legal mother that the Ning family daughters are naturally fertile and have secret methods for conceiving. I beg you, tell me, let me give the crown prince a child. I can't endure this kind of life for even one more day. Indeed, considering the time, they have been married for almost a year now. In her previous life, she was about to give birth to twin boys for the fourth prince at this time. But now her womb remains empty. No wonder Xiao Chen is pushing her to this extent. Watching Ning Shuiao's unwavering determination to bear a child for Xiao Chen, I shook my head and let out a deep sigh. Sister, the women of our Ning family are naturally gifted, and there is indeed a potent medicinal concoction that can induce pregnancy. However, the formula is extremely potent and must be taken for 49 consecutive days to take effect. Are you certain that Xiao Chen is truly worth such a sacrifice? I tried to persuade her to give up. In my previous life, I was obsessed with having a child, but it only pushed me and the child into a desperate situation. I didn't want to see her follow in my footsteps. She gritted her teeth and nodded solemnly. Actually, even without a child, you are still the crown princess. Besides, the one who is infertile is the crown prince. If you can't give birth, no other woman can either. Why take such a risk? Tears welled up in her eyes as she smiled, never expecting that while everyone blamed her for being unable to bear a child, only Ning Jingru was willing to believe her. Sister, you've been adored by everyone since childhood, so you can't understand my feelings. I've worked so hard to get where I am now, and I can't give it all up. Having this child is my only chance to turn things around. Seeing that her mind was made up, I leaned close to her ear and whispered the recipe for the lock essence decoction to her. I repeatedly reminded her that the medicine must be taken for a full 49 days, and it must be consumed immediately after intercourse. Once taken, it would cause excruciating pain, making one feel as if life were unbearable. She frowned, gritted her teeth, and agreed. Then, she respectfully kowtowed to me with a loud thud, expressed her sincere gratitude, and left. Soon, my time to give birth arrived, and Xiao Heng was pacing nervously outside the delivery room. Besides him, there was another person whose heart was in his throat, Xiao Chen. He was terrified that I would give birth to this child. Even now, you still doubt my innocence. You are so incompetent. How can you be worthy of being the crown prince of a nation? These words completely enraged Xiao Chen, and he reached out to strike Ning Shuiao and the child. I quickly stepped forward to shield them. When Xiao Chen saw me, the disgust in his eyes was even more intense than before. He didn't even care that Xiao Heng was present and snorted coldly. How dare you, a venomous woman, interfere in my family affairs? You can't even bear a son. Just like Ning Shuiao, both of you are useless trash. Xiao Heng was originally just disappointed in the crown prince, but now, seeing the crown prince speak harshly to me, he could no longer hold back and ordered his men to drag him away. Unfilial son, no one is allowed to disrespect the empress in my presence. I looked at Xiao Heng with deep emotion. He was always like this, standing firmly by my side no matter what happened. My eyes welled up with warmth, but my chest felt as if something was pressing against it. Unable to hold back, I let out a gag sound. Xiao Heng nervously stepped forward to ask, and I couldn't help but retch a few more times. The imperial physician waiting nearby hurriedly stepped forward to check my pulse. His face lit up with joy, but then turned serious again, and he remained silent for a long while. Physician, what exactly is wrong with the empress? The physician hesitated for a moment before speaking. Congratulations, Your Majesty, the empress is with child. What? This is good news. Why are you hesitating? The imperial physician scratched his head and replied, Your Majesty, Her Highness's pulse seems to indicate more than one child, perhaps twins, or even more. I beg your pardon for my incompetence in not being able to determine it accurately at the moment. Xiao Heng widened his eyes in disbelief. He never expected that, despite being well past the age of 30, he could still make me conceive repeatedly, and even with multiple children in one pregnancy. I, on the other hand, remained calm and composed. With my naturally fertile body, carrying multiple children was quite normal. In my previous life,
Ning Xueyao had also given birth to triplets for the fourth prince. Xiao Heng was overjoyed and immediately carried me back to the palace to rest. Ning Xueyao, fearing that Xiao Chen would attempt to harm the child again, requested permission to stay in the palace temporarily to recuperate. Only Xiao Chen remained standing in the hall. A sudden surge of murderous intent flashing in his eyes. When I was pregnant with my first child, he didn't feel too threatened, as he still believed Ning Xueyao could bear children, and I was only carrying a single child, so he chose to wait and see. But this time, I am carrying multiple children, and there is no guarantee that none of them will be a prince. The fact that I cannot have children of my own has also been publicly exposed, if my children are allowed to be born smoothly. His position as the crown prince will certainly be lost. Therefore, he secretly clenched his fists, determined not to let me give birth to a prince without any trouble. Since I am carrying multiple children, the palace servants are even more cautious in their care, so Xiao Chen has not found an opportunity to take action against me. Soon, the day of my delivery arrived. The familiar pain surged through me, and I gritted my teeth, perhaps because it was a multiple birth. The pain was noticeably more intense than the last time. Soon, I was drenched in sweat. When the midwife pressed on my belly, I trembled violently from the agony. The unfamiliar pain jolted me awake. Struggling, I lifted my head and looked at the midwife. My heart sank. The woman before me was a complete stranger, not the midwife who had attended me before. That press on my belly was clearly wrong, as if it wasn't meant to help me deliver quickly but rather to cause a stillbirth. I panicked and shouted, "Who are you? What do you want?" The midwife was clearly taken aback by my sudden questioning but feigned calmness. "Your Highness, save your strength. I am here to assist you with the delivery. Of course, push harder, it will be over soon." Still uneasy, I was about to call for help when I saw a flash of malice in her eyes. She then took the delivery scissors and viciously stabbed them into my abdomen. I don't know where the strength came from, but I lifted my foot and kicked her to the ground, shouting toward the door. My labor came on suddenly. Before giving birth, I knew Xiao Heng was delayed by envoys from another country and wouldn't be able to return anytime soon. But why was there not even a single palace servant outside the door? Watching the midwife get up from the ground and approach me with scissors, my heart sank. Could it be that there was truly no escape this time, covering my stomach and enduring the intense pain? I desperately retreated backward. As the scissors were about to strike my chest, I tightly closed my eyes, but it wasn't as painful as I had imagined. When I opened my eyes, Ning Xueyao, covered in blood, was standing in front of me, while the nanny lay on the ground, blood gushing from her. Ning Xueyao looked worried and said, "Jingru, don't be afraid, your sister is here." I could no longer hold back my tears. I never expected that in a life or death moment it would be Ning Xueyao who saved me. I didn't even have time to thank her before a sharp pain surged through my body. I was going into labor. Ning Xueyao helped me move to the bed and, despite her lack of experience, bravely assisted me through the delivery. "Don't be afraid, Jingru. You're blessed with good fortune. Both you and your child will be safe and sound." Encouraged by her words, I pushed with all my might. A flash of white light filled my vision, and the powerful cry of a newborn echoed in my ears. "It's born, it's born, it's a little prince. Jingru, congratulations. Wait, there's another one, also a prince." She hastily wrapped the baby and placed him beside me. But I felt something was off. It seemed like there was still something moving around in my belly. "Sister, look, is there still something in my belly?" She immediately leaned over to check beneath me, and sure enough, she exclaimed in delight, "There is, they're coming out." Coming out, 2 little princesses. Before her words had even finished, familiar footsteps sounded outside the door, and someone hurriedly pushed it open and entered. It was Xiao Heng. "Jingru, I have come late. You have given birth to 4 lovely children for me once again. Heaven has blessed us. You have suffered." He looked at the chaotic scene on the ground, the bloodstains everywhere, his face filled with guilt and heartache. I reached out to smooth his furrowed brow and leaned into his embrace, falling into a deep sleep. When I woke up again, the first person I saw was still Xiao Heng. He had heard about everything that happened during my childbirth and was extremely frightened. He stayed by my bedside day and night, refusing to leave no matter who tried to persuade him. As soon as he saw me open my eyes, he held me tightly, his stubble rubbing against my face, tickling and tingling. Yet it brought me an extraordinary sense of peace. "Jingru, I almost lost you." I held him tightly in return, gently stroking his back over and over. Afterwards, Xiao Heng ordered a strict investigation into the events of that day. Although the midwife had already died, they still managed to trace the clues back to the mastermind behind it all. It turned out to be Xiao Chen, fearing that I would give birth to a legitimate heir and threaten his position as the crown prince. He took advantage of the state visit to lure Xiao Heng away and had the servants in my palace removed, leaving me isolated and helpless. His original intention was to have the midwife replace my children with a stillborn baby prepared in advance, so that I would completely lose favor. Unexpectedly, a sudden change occurred, and in desperation, the midwife had no choice but to take my life. Fortunately, Ning Shuiyao secretly overheard the conversation between Xiao Chen and his subordinates, and arrived just in time to save me and the children. Xiao Chen still refused to admit his guilt, repeatedly claiming he was wronged, until his personal guard was brought before him, at which point he resignedly fell silent. The hidden guard, seeing that Xiao Chen's power was waning, revealed many of his scandals in an attempt to save himself. For instance, Xiao Chen had long known that he was the one unable to father children, but to protect his reputation, he deliberately spread rumors in the capital that Ning Shuiyao was infertile. Another example, he once tried to tamper with my pregnancy medicine. Coincidentally, I was in a petty argument with Xiao Heng that day and stubbornly refused to drink the medicine. Furthermore, he even resorted to witchcraft in the Eastern Palace, cursing Xiao Heng and me to a tragic end. Xiao Heng was now completely disappointed in Xiao Chen and, in a fit of rage, immediately stripped him of his position as crown prince, demoting him to a commoner. As for Ning Shuiyao, due to her meritorious service in saving the emperor, Xiao Heng granted her permission to divorce Xiao Chen, conferred upon her the title of county princess, and granted her the freedom to marry as she pleased. After Xiao Chen was deposed, court officials repeatedly submitted memorials urging Xiao Heng to appoint a new crown prince. As a result, Xiao Heng appointed the eldest of the quadruplets as the crown prince. Xiao Heng was particularly attentive to these children, personally teaching them poetry, literature, etiquette, music, and archery skills, presenting himself as a loving father. The children were all clever and well-behaved, bringing joy to his presence. Ever since I gave birth to quadruplets, Xiao Heng has been taking contraceptive medicine himself after each intimate encounter. At first, I felt very wronged and even reached out to snatch the medicine from him. "Does uncle not want to have more children with Jingru?" Xiao Heng looked at me with a face full of adoration and coaxed, "Jingru, you're not a little sow. Pregnancy and childbirth are too exhausting, and I can't bear to let you go through that again." My heart warmed, and in truth, I understood he was simply too afraid of losing me. Soon, the children all grew up. On the day the crown prince came of age, Xiao Heng immediately abdicated the throne and took me to the imperial retreat to live a leisurely life. After regaining her freedom, Ning Shuiyao also lived freely and unrestrained. Her golden-haired boy was raised well by her and accompanied her as she traveled the world. Later, I heard that she met a merchant whose eyes were only for her. The two of them, deeply in love and without a doubt, chose a place with beautiful scenery to live a secluded life. I saw Xiao Chen again on the streets of a border town. He was covered in filth, barely clothed, and begging barefoot by the roadside. A few years ago, I had heard that even after being demoted to a commoner, he couldn't change the behavior he had developed as the crown prince, which had offended many people. Seeing him in such a wretched state, these people took advantage of his misfortune, swindled him out of his money, and tricked him into going to the borderlands, where he was forced to work as a laborer at a horse ranch. It seems he managed to escape on his own and ended up living on the streets as a beggar. I noticed a hint of reluctance in Xiao Heng's eyes, so I took the pouch from my waist, walked over, and tossed it into his begging bowl. He looked both flattered and startled as he nodded in thanks. When he lifted his head and our eyes met, His expression was filled with shock and resentment. Ning Jingru, it's actually you. Are you here to laugh at me too, bitch? I sighed and looked at him with pity. Xiao Chen, you're truly pitiful. But you deserve all of this. In your previous life, you killed my daughter, causing me to die of rage. Now, sparing your life is already a mercy. Xiao Chen's pupils dilated wildly. You've been reborn too. No wonder on the day of the consort selection. When I chose that wretch Ning Xueyao, you weren't the least bit upset. So that's how it is. It's all your fault, you wretch. He reached out to strangle me, but was kicked away by the hidden guard following me. I shook my head helplessly, turned around, and took Xiao Heng's hand to leave. Uncle, after all, he is your son. He stopped being one the moment he plotted against you and the child, and cursed me. Let him fend for himself. I nodded and tightly held onto Xiao Heng's arm. From then on, across mountains and rivers, we will be together for a long, long time. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.